Kodak Black making waves on Drink Champs, talking about Trump, talking about T.I., talking about Big Boy, and then Spotify, actually a new policy where smaller artists don't even get monetized, and what little they do get monetized gets passed on to established major artists. How are we going to take money out of small streamers' pockets and put it into big streamers? That's crazy. Stay tuned for that. So, I mean, this Spotify stuff, this is huge on the music industry because we're not just talking about musicians, we're talking about other artists that stream on Spotify as well.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, this is what Spotify is doing. Spotify wants to establish a streaming threshold which artists must hit before they get paid anything. A song would need to earn roughly 5 cents per month or about 200 streams in order to generate payments. The move is expected to demonetize a portion of tracks that had previously absorbed 0.5% of the service's royalty pool. In other words, Spotify wants to reroute these fractional payments, which rarely end up in independent artists' pockets anyways, because aggregators typically require a minimum amount of streams before allowing them to withdraw money. The Union of Musicians and Allied Workers said, artists have solutions to fix streaming, but Spotify isn't listening. Instead, they propose changes that will enrich the top of the pyramid even more and make it even more impossible for working musicians to benefit from streaming. I'll be the first to admit I'm not a main Spotify guy. I'm more of a YouTube guy. The whole concept of smaller artists getting playtime, can you imagine what it would be like if YouTube said you can't post a video unless you already have 200 likes from the very beginning?
It's weird. I understand why it's happening, right? You know, it's a business move. It has nothing to do with the artists. They're clearly catering to the companies that are probably helping them drive revenue in, the big music corporations, the music industry itself. I think we've long known that streaming is a bad solution for artists in general. Like,
yeah,
you need to be building something of a brand and then probably making money from merchandising. Like, and you know, the fact that they force artists on the platforms like this to make a nickel, right? Like, it's like them changing the threshold is bad in its own way, but it also just shows the fact that it's not worth it in the first place. Like, people need to probably try to drive stuff back to physical media where you can actually sell an album for $10 because,
well, I mean,
how you gonna make money like that anyway? It's like,
and then you have to look at it also in the big picture wise. When you look at any kind of industry, is it not always catering to the richest of the people? We're talking about politics, trying to get politicians to listen. How many times do politicians ignore the public in favor of a rich lobbyist that has contacts within Washington, has contacts within private defense contractor companies like Blackwater? So who's really controlling this? That's the kind of thing you have to really wonder about, is that how is society set up if you're only going to get hurt if you're already famous? That doesn't even make any sense. You said it was a business decision, and that's a good point, because every company has got a board of directors, and what's probably happening is Spotify's board of directors for their investors that own equity in their company is saying, you've been at a net loss, Spotify.
Yeah.
You got to change some shit up. And so Spotify is like, well, fuck, what do we do? Because what's their main source of revenue? The subscription, the premium model, where you pay for premium subscription and
ads.
Exactly. So it's not working for them for whatever reason, and they're trying to save their own ass, and who's getting lost in the process?
They've basically paid out people who have fake streams. They paid out people with white noise albums, or like they got like animal nature sound albums on there, and people are making $20,000 off of this type of stuff. I think they've done a bad job of policing the platform in general, right? They've allowed these kind of bad actors to come in and take over their platform. And it's not like they're trying to punish artists, but you will be the byproduct of whatever happens. Like, if they pass a law unilaterally, it doesn't matter if it's fair to you or not. It's like the reason why they're passing this law is because enough people have infringed in this type of way that they have to make a law about it, right? And so
what's the solution? I don't know.
So many people have sold out to the idea that streaming is going to do something for them, and I think it never really has, right? It's always been a big players game. The people who make the most money have the biggest piece of the pie. They have the most advertising dollars. So it's like if anybody ever thought that Spotify had any interest in developing independent or small artists. It doesn't. It doesn't, and it never will. Because how are they going to make money off? Independent artists don't have money, so why would they cater to them?
No. Well, and so what do you guys think? Do you think this decision is fair from Spotify's perspective as a business just trying to keep itself out of hot water and bankruptcy, or do you think this is just an egregious offense against, up and coming musicians and other streamers? How would you solve this kind of issue? Well, coming up next is Jada being separated from Will for 7 years, only he didn't know it. No, we're not going to touch on that. No. That's just it's going to make us cry inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Laugh on the outside, cry on the inside, sort of thing.
Oh, man.
Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment below saying I subscribed, and we'll try our best to reply to your comment. Coming up next, one of the things that I want to talk about, if talking is what you would call it, is Kodak Black on Drink Champs. I cannot understand most of what he says, and I don't know if it's because I'm too white or if I haven't done enough cocaine or what is going on here, but he is very unintelligible, and I think some of the backlash that's happened, as we've talked about, is that Drink Champs typically doesn't have people who don't interview well on there.
Like it's crazy because for him it was always he was interviewing people that are like 10, 15 years in the game,
right?
Had a lot of commercial success already, like legends more so, people that were maybe closer to his generation or people that just had a lot of
rich industry insights.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
People of the culture, fans of the culture. I'm not saying that Kodak Black isn't, but he's a controversial figure in the culture, and he always has been, like from the start,
from the
jump.
Yeah,
exactly. People always felt like Kodak was one of those guys where you're like, okay, I respect what he's doing as an artist. I'm trying to give everybody a lane and a place, but when he says stuff and the way that he moves and the things that he identifies with, it shows you that he isn't really in the center of what the conversation is for growth. He's in the center of a conversation of maybe he can grow in the future, but right now I feel like he's still a little lost. He's still young. He's still young, right?
I don't know what's going on with him. I feel like he's seriously struggling with some drug issues, and then I think that's affecting his ability not just to communicate, but I think just to process shit.
Yeah.
At one point he did this freestyle, which may have been a pre-written that was recited. Yeah. I don't really understand the context of all that, or if he was just redoing the freestyle he'd already done, but he said at one point, Trump freed more N-words than Obama did.
It's like I think a lot of people were even upset about the fact that he pardoned Kodak Black, because it was like, who is he to getting a pardon? Like, what is he, Malcolm X? Is he Martin Luther King now? Are we saying that Kodak Black is that important to the youth? I don't want to downplay his significance to the youth. He even said in his interview, which I did like, when he was talking about the Super Gremlin song, he referenced the fact that he didn't really want to say the line that he was talking about taking a fake Percocet.
Yeah.
It just sounded good. That's why he put it in there. But in his mind, he knows that he's an influencer of young people. And he's kind of like, man, if I say something like that, people might want to do that. And he has to now reiterate that, oh, no, I didn't really mean that. And it's like, I like that idea, but it's like, I don't like the fact that people don't start off on a good foot. It's like,
I feel like Kodak Black's got a sense of self-awareness higher than what I think some perceive him to have.
Yes.
That is trying to muddle his way through the designer drugs that he's on. One of the lines that he said in the freestyle or recited rap that he was doing on Drink Champs was, stupid ass N-word won't sit down with the man, so how are you going to execute your plan? And it's a good reference to understanding the business of music, or the business of understanding you have to work within the system to be able to become successful sometimes. But at one point he was talking about how T.I. and Big Boy tried to kick him off the label,
or tried to get him kicked off the label.
Yeah, and then T.I. responded. It was a similar response, I would say, Nas's response to 21 Savage. When Nas responded to 21 Savage being called irrelevant, it was all love, right?
Yeah, it wasn't negative. Yeah. I mean, he even said, he's like, I don't really know you. I met you one time. Yeah. It was, we kept it cool. I said, I wish you the best and I want to see you be successful. Yeah. But I imagine where T.I. is at in his life, that's not the type of person he would want to associate with, right? He's trying to be a businessman. He's trying to be more
stand-up comedian.
Educated. He's trying to move forward. He's not trying to stay in the past where, he grew up in the streets selling drugs and all that stuff. So when he sees a young man like Kodak, he's probably like, yo, man, like, I want to see you do better. But at the same time, he understands that he can't really do much about a grown man, because Kodak is a grown man. He can't do much about having another grown man change his viewpoint on life. But also, it is, if what Kodak says isn't true, that's messed up. Because he's dragging legends through the mud.
That's true.
And trying to make them out. And he was like, oh, Big Boy did this. I was like, Big Boy hasn't, I don't know if he spoke out on him, but it's like,
yeah, I don't really understand that.
Where's the evidence on that?
He kept saying exclude Big Boy. And I don't really understand why he's trying to say that, because so far I don't see anything supporting it.
If old heads could get younger artists kicked off the labels, you know how many artists wouldn't be in the game right now? Because the old head Joe Budden been mad.
The entire mumble rap era.
Yeah, like it's no way any of these artists would get on if that was real. Like the labels are interested in making money. Kodak Black is a seller. He makes money. So that's all they care about. They're not going to kick you off the label because T.I.'s butt hurt or because Big Boy is like, this doesn't represent the culture. Like it strikes me as a strange comment.
So going to camera one, the real question is, what do you think about Kodak Black's comments? Were they intelligible to you? Do you think he has a basis? Do you think the heads that are complaining about Kodak Black being on Drink Champs have valid points? Comment below, like and subscribe, and tune in for another episode of From the Jump.